It's the Sean Widmer Podcast. It's a journal by someone that just really doesn't like to write.
You guys win. You win. It's been declared. Guests are coming back to the podcast. Let's just get that out of the way right off the bat because it was the number one thing from Wednesday's podcast. Everyone is sick of hearing me talk by myself. Everyone wants guests back. Brandon, you've brought them back. Will they be all the time? No, because it's a pain in the butt to get guests, to get people to answer their phones or do the video thing. It's kind of a pain in the butt to record, but one way or another, we'll get them back. I bring this part up for the YouTube people. It will probably end up being mostly phone calls, so you won't be able to see the other person unless they can easily access Discord, because I'm not using Zoom. I can't FaceTime. I've got to go through Discord. So there we go. There's some housekeeping for you. Welcome to another episode of the Sean Widmer Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the feedback from last episode from the people who did say to add guests. I'm sure we'll get some of those in the comments today when we do the comments at the end of the podcast. Okay, so today, a review on a family activity. We are going to deep dive into some music stuff and a juxtaposition. Is that the word I'm trying to think of? I hope so. We're gonna get into this kind of stuff, the music stuff here a little later on, a little walk down memory lane. I wanted to start with this though. The other day on Instagram, I was scrolling as I'm known to do from time to time, and I landed upon a post that I found rather funny, and it said, let me read it. To those in middle school who signed my yearbook and said, "Stay cool, I have some terrible news for you." I thought that was pretty funny. That's a pretty funny thing. And I love yearbook comments. We all love the yearbook comments. It was fun to write in your buddies' yearbooks. It was fun to read the yearbook stuff. So after I posted that, and I was talking to some people about how silly it was, the things that were written in old yearbooks, I was like, wait a second, I have some of my old yearbooks. And so I found them, and I was kind of just thumbing through them, and it is so funny to see the things that were written. My senior yearbook is ruined by Andrew Lee and Jeff Baker. They wrote horrible things in my yearbook that I did not realize they had written. Horrible. And so that I can never show my children my senior year of high school yearbook, thanks to Andrew and Jeff. But I found some other ones, and I found the one that I wanted to find the most because I wanted to check something as I had recalled something from history as it relates to yearbooks. When I grew up in Venezuela, our school was very small, and so you just knew everyone. You knew everyone very, very well. I think I had 10 or 11 in my graduating class. There was less than 100 kids, first grade through 12th grade in our school. It was not big. So in 9th grade, I was in the good old US of A, and I went to Meade Junior High, the last year this school existed. I was a 9th grader at Meade Junior High. And that was a big school with a lot of people. And I remember taking the opportunity in the yearbook because I played on the basketball team. And so because of that, I brushed shoulders with the cool kids in school, like the jocks, the cool dudes. And I did not fit in with them at all. I fit in with the not cool kids a lot better. And the people I had lunch with and the people I talked to at school, we were the just kind of nerdy kids, and I loved it. But because I played basketball and I was okay at it, I was friends with some of the cool kids. And the cool guys, of course, and we're running it back to 9th grade, and you can have your PTSD with all this stuff one way or the other, but the cool kids also were all the cool girls like the cool kids. And so if you were on the basketball team, a lot of the basketball team guys, they would hang out with the good looking gals, right? We all know what we're talking about. I'm not going to just beat around the bush. We all been there. We lived that life, that crazy junior high, no idea what reality is in the real world. But at that time, all that mattered was junior high and the things going on there. So I bring all that up to say the yearbook was great because it was your opportunity to just hand your book to a random girl and let them sign it and force them to write something that would then give the nerdy loser I was hope in a world that I had no idea about. I didn't date girls in junior high school, maybe like twice for 1 week. Let's see, I dated Carrie Yakel for maybe 2 weeks before she started dating Andrew Lee. And then I think that was it. That was in like 7th grade. So that was it. That was the run. That was my girlfriend run through junior high and high school. So I just never talked to girls. But the yearbook was your moment to be in the spot where you go, okay, everyone's gathered around signing yearbooks. I'm kind of hanging right now. You'd go hang with your basketball guy friends, and they're kind of with the cool kids, and you're like, look, bombshell. I'm going to throw this yearbook at you because everyone else is, and now you have to write something in it, and it is going to give me hope for years. And I was reading the comments, and I was just dying because I'm looking, I don't know this person, and they're like, it's been so great to get to know you this year. I really hope your summer is wonderful, and I can't wait to talk to you next year. And there's so many things about that were hilarious because, one, I wasn't going to be there next year. I think it was kind of well known. I was there for 1 year and I'd lived in Venezuela. And so this girl, I mean, this is just proving the point that I'm just handing my yearbook to people who don't have any clue who I am, but I wanted to, just maybe feel it out. See if maybe this year I had made an impact in their world. Maybe there was this weird chance that I had that I just missed on. And so I'm putting the ball in their court. And the other great thing about the yearbooks from my generation, 42 years old, so we're talking the late 90s, the comment, I'll talk to you next year. And that meant school year because there was no cell phones. There was no social media. When school was done, if it wasn't your friend, you were talking to them next school year, which is crazy to think about now because that's not the case at all. Now, what do they just write? They're like, hey, put the Instagram handle. And they're like, yo, send me a message tomorrow. Talk to you tomorrow. But then it was a big deal. It's like, look, I hope you have a great summer. See you next school year. Can't wait to see you next school year. This is wild. The yearbook stuff, man. I'd highly recommend if you have an old yearbook, go look through it. And like I said, if you went to a big school and you're a guy like me who had no chance to interact with girls, it is so funny to go back and be like, this was my moment. This was my impact. I'd waited all school year for the very end of school to have my first bit of correspondence with this gal as I put the yearbook in her hand. I'm like, what's up, Melissa? Can you sign my yearbook? And dread has filled her, but I'm surrounded by people she knows. So she's like, there's gotta be, I must know you somehow because you're with Jake. And I know everyone Jake knows. So how do I know you? Wait, you're with Matt Tabus right now. I must know. I got it. Okay, well, I'll write something really sweet down. Oh, that's great. And yearbooks. Okay. Let's go into the world of recommendations or non-recommendations for family activities because we did something that I'd never done before this week. My wife had done it growing up with her dad, and so we tried it out this week. And it's something that I had only ever seen in movies, heard about on shows, TV shows, maybe read about in books. And that was, we took the family and watched airplanes. I'm just sitting out here watching airplanes. We did that whole thing. We took the truck. My wife made this sick kind of kids charcuterie board of fruits and veggies and crackers and some dips and just a fun smattering of foods for dinner. And we set up a bunch of blankets in the back of my truck bed. We went out to the airport here in Lexington, parked my truck, opened up the truck bed, let the kids sit back there. We just watched airplanes take off and land. And it was rad. It was rad. I did not know what I was going to think about it. I'd never done it. And it ended up being something that I'm super excited to do again. I actually am pumped about it. Now, there was a little bit of, some stuff wasn't as wonderful. My daughter just sat in the back of the truck bed and thought, this is the coolest thing ever. This is so cool. 1, we're out of the house. 2, we're eating dinner in the back of the truck. And 3, there's airplanes right over top of us, landing and taking off. It was really cool. My son liked that for about 10 minutes, and then he was like, wait a second. Are we parked right next to this field? I need to go explore. So my wife and my daughter kind of got to hang out in the truck and chat and watch the airplanes and listen to some music. And Huck and I explored the fields next to the airport. And it was fun. It was very enjoyable. I will tell you this. For me, I did have some serious anxiety because it's a lot of planes that are landing and taking off, at least here at the Lexington airport, because there's a lot of prop planes that were landing. And who knows what they're doing, where they're going from, or going to, or where they're coming from. But there's a lot of prop planes that landed. And I was having major anxiety because I'm like, you better land. You better land right. This needs to be successful. I don't want to see anything terrible happen. And so every time an airplane was coming down to land, I was filled with this weird anxiety. And it was almost like I wanted to cover up my son's eyes, like, we're going to see the one airplane crash here at the airport this year, and I'm never going to want to fly ever again. So outside of my anxiety, I'm going to give 2 thumbs up to watching airplanes take off and land and doing the dinner there. Shout out to my wife. Anna crushed it. Fun idea, and we absolutely loved it. So there is something that I'd recommend. Also, when it comes to my kids, before we get into music and Kelly's What Are You Into? Survivor Talk coming up at the end of the podcast, by the way. So after the comments, if you're not a Survivor person, shut the podcast off. If you are a Survivor person, we'll get into the Survivor stuff after the comments and do a whole thing with a breakdown of this week's episode. But I wanted to give my son a shout out, my daughter a shout out. We haven't really had that situation yet where one of my kids says something extremely inappropriate to somebody in public, where it's just a kid being a kid and you comment on something someone's wearing, how someone looks. And you hear these stories from parents where a kid's just being extremely innocent and they throw something out to somebody and it's awkward for everyone. Well, my son and I were out yesterday, and this is the closest we've got. And there was a gal who was out that was, she had to be 6'9", and just so tall, so crazy tall. And she was with her little kid, and I'm with Huck, and Huck saw her and ran right up to her. I mean, I'm talking his nose almost hit her shin. And he stopped and looked right at her feet and slowly panned all the way up to her head. And I'm just kind of closing my eyes because at this point he's out of range, and I can't run to him because now it's awkward. I just got to let whatever happens. And I see him start to say something, and I'm like, buddy. And he just looks, and his eyes are huge, and he's staring way up at this gal, and he just goes, "It's amazing," and sprinted off. And I was like, okay, I can handle that one. And she laughed, and she was super cool. Of course, she's 6'9". She's not dumb. I'm sure a lot of kids are like, holy cow, I've never seen anyone this tall, let alone a gal this tall. And so she was like, I get it a lot. Kids always come up and they want to say hi. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry. She goes, no, it was super cute. But I thought, Huck, if you're going to be my loose cannon kid, we haven't had a bad one yet. We haven't had that thing a kid has said that made everyone blush. And we avoided it for now. Sorry about that. I don't know what that's going to look like on video or sound like in audio. We had some company come over there, right there. You might have heard the dog going crazy. Where were we on the podcast? Oh, yeah.
Kelly's What Are You Into?
Okay. My Chemical Romance is today's Kelly's What Are You Into? I think I'd mentioned them on Wednesday. And it was on Tuesday night. We went out to dinner with some people. I'd mentioned we talked about old emo, punk rock, punk rock, emo rock from the early 2000s, a genre that is very near and dear to my heart. And I'd mentioned My Chemical Romance that night, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And so finally I was like, I need to dive back in. A band I loved in the mid-2000s. Loved. And I didn't know much about what happened to them, but in 2004 they released their second album, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. And then in 2006, they released The Black Parade. 2 albums that I ran into the ground. Killed those things. Just absolutely crushed them. And I'm leading to something with this because I'm trying to readjust my brain and my mindset into an entire world that I used to love, that I fell out in love with. And I'm kind of using My Chemical Romance as my reason. Hang on, I got to adjust my camera real quick because I think when I left, it got there. Whatever, it's going to be close. Again, sorry for the interruption. I've got to get back in the podcast mindset right now. So, like I said, 2004, 2006, those albums come out. I'm in love with My Chemical Romance. And for the record, I've been re-listening to them. Helena is their best song. And then I want it to be Welcome to the Black Parade. But I think I just want that to be, that song is great. But I think I just want it to be the best because the chanting part of it is so cool. And we'll get into a little extra with that. But the part where it's like, Do or die, you'll never make me, because this world will never take my heart. Go on and try, you'll never break me. Go on, we want it all. We want to play this part. It's been a long time since I've remembered the lyrics to all these songs. They came back to me really quick yesterday and today, listening to them. But that song's great. That song's awesome. I'm Not Okay is great. Dead is great. Teenagers is great. They've got so many songs that end up at the end of the year on my Spotify most played songs. I feel like Helena and Dead are weirdly always on that list for the last however long Spotify's done it. They're not way up there, but they're always on the list of songs I've listened to a lot during the year. And I loved My Chemical Romance. I did some research on them. I didn't realize they had broken up in the mid 2010s and they're back together. I think they made an album in 2022. I have not listened to it and I'm hoping they go back out on tour. And I bring that up because My Chemical Romance is one of my favorite concerts I've ever been to in my life as I try to readjust my thinking into a world, like I said, that I used to love. Because I used to absolutely love going to concerts. I loved it. In the 2000s, it was one of my favorite things to do. And I didn't do it all the time, but I did go and I did love it. And then 2010s rolled around and I was working at KWAYI Country. And I went to a ton of country concerts, hundreds of country concerts. Very lucky. I'd get to go for free. I'd get good tickets and we'd get to go see a lot of these concerts. But I didn't love the music as much. So I'm going to these shows and the music's fine and everything, but it wasn't what I loved. And I kind of got jaded on going to the concerts to the point where I dreaded going to the concerts maybe the last 3-4 years. Just dreaded it. Didn't want to go. The concert would get there and I would try to remember being excited and I couldn't do it. And I'm trying to readjust that because I do like going to shows and Lexington has a lot of concerts that come through it. And I want to get back into going to them and being excited to go to concerts. And My Chemical Romance was one of the very best concerts I've ever been to in my life. I think it was 2007 in Portland. We drove down to Portland and they played at some Coliseum. It wasn't the Rose Garden or Moda Center now. It was some other Coliseum in Portland. And I've been in a lot of mosh pits. I don't know, the pit. I've been in a lot of pits in my life. And at a country concert, the pit's fine and it's cool, but it doesn't even hold a candle to going to a punk rock show. I'm assuming rock shows, like the hard rock shows, sound a little terrifying to me. The punk rock shows are like a great mix of energy and also enough kids who are emotionally not going to try to hurt anyone. And so it's like a wildly, safely wild place. The pit at My Chemical Romance was insane. It was wild. I just remembered Gerard Way, the lead singer, constantly telling us to lift our fists in the air, and then everyone in the world screaming "I'm not okay" at him at the top of our lungs. And it was just an awesome, awesome show. And that was when I loved going to concerts. And I want to get back into that mode. I'm not going to be 24, 25 again and go try to get in the pit and get crazy. But a lot of these bands that I want to go see again, the bands that I love from the early 2000s, when they are coming through town, I'm now the old guy. And they're kind of on our tour that's mainly like a reunion tour of some kind. And it will be like, oh, the final tour, like Blink's coming to town. I want to go see Blink again. Going to Blink with Preston in my early 20s, that experience, going to Tacoma, is going to be a lot different than going to see them in Lexington as an old man. And they're going to perform, I'm sure, a lot different than they did when they were in Tacoma. But I got to get back into the mindset of enjoying the live music because I do really love music. So My Chemical Romance is my Keller's What Are You Into? I'm just way deep into them. And if you are somebody who loved that early 2000s emo rock, that punk rock, the genre's so good. It's so good. I was talking to my buddy Ryan about it today, and he was like, it's just too loud. He never liked My Chemical Romance. He's like, they're just too loud. Too loud. I get it, Ryan. Ryan's John Legend. He loves John Legend. My Chemical Romance is not John Legend. The other thing I remember with My Chemical Romance, and this is a you don't know how good you have it, kids, piece of commentary. Kids these days do not know how good they have it when it comes to chord management. When I was a kid, I had to go to the engineers at the radio station I was working at and have them make me a foot-long headphone extender so that I could plug my earpods, the corded earpods, into this extender, plug that extender into my iPod, and then be able to put my iPod into my basketball shorts pockets, listen to My Chemical Romance while I shot baskets without the cord coming unplugged. Because if I didn't have the extender, every 5 seconds, the cord would come unplugged and the music would stop. Kids these days don't know how good they have it. I don't even know how we survived back then. Couldn't even listen to music while shooting hoops. What a nightmare. But I remember going to the engineers and asking them to make me an extender and lying to them and saying I needed it for the studio. And the guy was like, you need it for the studio? And I'm like, yeah, lots of times I like walk to this counter or this back behind the microphone a ways. And it's like, I need to run over there real quick and get it. And I can't do it without taking my headphones off. It took him no time, but I got a little headphone extender from Dave Raitner. Thank you, Dave, for that. And My Chemical Romance was one of the reasons why I had to do that. Man, cord management in the mid-2000s, just so you could listen to music in your corded headphones. Let's get into the comments, shall we? You can comment in one of three ways. You can comment on the website, seanslife.com, S-E-A-N. That's how you spell Sean, my way. And then you can go to Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, today's episode, you can click on it and it will bring up a little Q&A. And you can go through that. You can also comment on YouTube like Roberta did. Oh, but before any of that, Michael had sent me a text message, and I forgot to bring my phone in here. So Michael had sent me a text message commenting on the podcast, and one of the things he mentioned was that he hit a hole-in-one. He's on my group of friends that have hit hole-in-ones. He hit one at the Coeur d'Alene Resort, but it wasn't the floating green. So my question is, if you hit a hole-in-one at the Coeur d'Alene Resort, but it wasn't on the floating green, did you actually hit a hole-in-one? Right? Congratulations. I didn't know there was a different par 3 at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. In fact, I didn't know there was another hole at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. I thought you go there, pay a bunch of money, hit your drive, try to make it on the floating green, and then go to dockside and get the GUI. That's what I thought golf was like at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. But I learned something today. There's more holes. And apparently Michael's on that list. He's a stud. Love knowing he's there. Okay. I gotta try to bring up. I can't get access to some of the comments. Let me see if I can't. Why that's not working? There we go. I think it's loading now. On YouTube, Roberta said this. So glad to see Brandon on the pod. Yes to the guests. It's always fun to see you play off someone. Keep it going and go for the gusto. Got to find your inspiration where you can. Thank you, Roberta. I appreciate that. And I mean, again, we're trying to grow the podcast this year and see what happens. I think it'll probably be once a week for the guests. If you are a YouTube person, again, I apologize. I can't promise video of the person. It's probably easier for me since I don't have a ton of time to pour into the podcast. It's probably easier for me to call them on the phone. So that's probably going to be how a lot of the guests are. I hope that's okay. seanslife.com is where Ian said, he's talking the bear here. Did I see Carmen's cousin poison a whole party? So Carmen isn't there to help save the restaurant. He's there for health and to settle his brother's affairs because the brother died, but it would seem he has to save the restaurant in order to settle those debts. Only season 1, episode 5. Yeah, I tried to keep it out, like what was going on there with the reason why Carmen's back. But yeah, his brother's dead and his brother owned the restaurant. So that's why he's back in town and working at the beef. There is Cuz is one of the best characters in the show. Richie. Richie's great. I don't remember him poisoning a whole party. I don't remember that. But I do know you're getting to some good episodes. Last couple episodes of season 1 are great, Ian. I'm glad you're watching. I really hope you like it. Okay, these are off the Spotify. We've got 2 of them for you. Sharon said, I think you should have more guests. Where do you find the show The Bear? Look at this. We're just covering things, and I should have written these comments out in a better order. The Bear, I saw it on Hulu. It's on FX. So anyway you can get FX, that's where you can get The Bear. And then Yvonne says this, and Sharon, thank you for the comment. Yvonne says, was great hearing Brandon. I have him on Instagram. Wedding pics are wonderful. Told you before to have guests, bring it back. I know, Yvonne, you were one of the first people to say, get the guests back. So now friends of mine who I call, get ready. Darnay, get ready to answer your phone. Andy, get ready to answer your phone. Ryan, get ready to answer your phone. Anna, get ready to come downstairs and jump on a microphone. Who knows? Who knows who we can get on here? Thank you for tuning in. We are going to get into Survivor Talk now, but if you do not watch Survivor and you don't care about Survivor Talk, this is it for you. I hope your weekend goes wonderfully. You can go ahead and make in your comments. Can you throw me the bands that you absolutely loved in your 20s? In your 20s. So this would be a time frame because that, like, My Chemical Romance is my 20s. I'm out of the house. I'm no longer in high school. I'm out of the house. I'm living on my own, but I haven't quite become an adult yet. What are those bands that take you back to your 20s that you love? Because all of those bands in my life, if they ever come through town, I want to go see them in a nostalgic way now more than anything. Some of you may be in your 20s. What bands do you like right now? And that will be fun because write it down so that maybe you'll remember it in 20 years when you've changed the kind of music you listen to 30 times. And then you go back and go, oh man, remember when I was making weird decisions at 22 years old and commenting on that guy's podcast, this band name? All right, thanks for listening. Survivor Talk. All right, let's finish this today, shall we? Some Survivor Talk. I'm actually not going to do as much as I wanted to because I'm recording this late on Thursday, and Jeremy is wanting to play some Baldur's Gate 3. So for those of you dying for Survivor Talk, sorry, but Asterion and the crew is calling my name. It's been a minute since Jeremy and I have dove into the world of Baldur's Gate. I'm very excited for that. But we did just watch Survivor, and I thought it was a good episode. I think we're heading towards something that has happened the last few seasons that is a bummer, and I wouldn't be surprised if next week I don't watch. By the way, I don't watch the preview for next week. So if there's stuff from the preview from next week that already said you're going to say, like, Sean, we already know this is happening. Sorry. I'm assuming they're going to mix it up a little bit next week. They're getting into a spot where they've got the 3 tribes, 2 of which have not lost anyone, and they've got a team that is on the outs in a bad way. I think ideally for Survivor, when they do 3 tribes, you hope a team loses the first week and a different team loses the second week, and you want these numbers to dwindle down in a staggered way between the tribes, because then you send tribes into the merge with less numbers. Where right now, and it was like, I think last season with Caleb and Emily, they had just 2 people go into the merge, and all the other tribes have so many numbers, and it's like it's just not as interesting, because you do end up getting a tribe versus tribe situation, and it's really hard to mix things up in the end game when you have so much of your tribe advancing. So I think the purple tribe losing again this week was interesting. Now, I want to talk a couple things about the episode. A lot of people won me over this week. I think there's some real good chemistry going on. That yellow team is very interesting. They have got high vibes. I don't know what's going to happen when push comes to shove with them, though, because everything's on the up and up right now, with Tevin as kind of a ringleader with Soda and Hunter. And then you've got that Liz girl who's just in the middle and seems beyond annoying. She's not going to be long for this game. If she's long for this game, she's the dead weight that is taken to the end and loses at the end. She's set up to be that person immediately. You get her for a number, take her to the end, beat her. 0 votes. And then in that group, you've got Venus and Randon, who have now made their alliances. They're making moves, which is a smart thing to do right now for them, because they see Tevin as a powerhouse, and they're right about that. And Soda seems to have a lot of power in the game as well. She's got a lot of attitude. So I like the discourse with the yellow team. They're incredibly happy, and they're incredibly team right now, but they have got cracks. We just got to get them to a tribal council to see what happens. The other team, the green team, is interesting. The green team, as much as the yellow team dominated the challenge, seemed pretty happy at camp. That green team, they've got some powerhouses there. I think it's Tim, Charlie, Ben are the guys. Maria, Mariah, and the one person whose name I'm not remembering, Jem are the girls. And so they've got this split right now. Maria's got an extra vote, so that's important to remember. They've got much love going on right now. They did the game with Ben versus Charlie. Who can name more songs? Ben naming Metallica songs. Charlie naming Taylor Swift songs. Over 100 songs each. I'm already ready for the producers to release all the footage of that so that the T Swift fans can go nuts and Taylor Swift can retweet it and Survivor can get that Travis Kelce bump in the ratings. I would love that. That tribe has the thing, though, and it was mentioned this episode, Malcolm and Denise, an old classic about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Survivor duo that was so good, Denise and Malcolm. And it was brought up with Charlie and Maria. Now, Malcolm and Charlie a little bit different, but both very likable, both very, very likable. And I think what they're doing there, where they know they've got girls, the potential girls versus guys, the fact that they have sniffed out that does not normally work and are willing to work together and make moves for the two of them that really benefit them moving forward is that they are destined to be deep into this game. We're going to be talking Maria and Charlie for a very long time this season. They're going to be on for a lot of weeks because again, when they lose one, they now will control everything. They will decide who goes home. The two of them will decide because if they want it to be one of the guys, they'll just tell the girls, vote for this guy. If they want it to be one of the girls, they'll tell the guys, and that's just how it will be. It's a pretty powerful position to be in, and they both seem like they've got their head on their shoulders right. They do have the advantage of the extra vote with Maria's, so they're in a really good spot. Purple team is a nightmare. Banu slipped a lot in my personal power rankings this week. He's overly emotional. I'd mentioned last week I didn't mind the emotion because it's about the game and he's really passionate about it. But tonight he was emotional and a loose cannon, and I could not believe at Tribal Council they did not vote out Banu. I know Jess was a nightmare in the game. She was not in it. Her head was not in it. Total liability. Right now, if you are, let's run through the people. Right now, if you are Tiffany and Q, who I feel like are a solid alliance, they made it very clear in the episode this week they are each other's number one as they sat under the tent and talked about what they wanted to do. They're in a bad spot because you keep Banu moving forward. If they decide to cut Kenzie and keep Banu, you have got one of the biggest liabilities in the world. A leaky faucet that spews every bit of information he has heard. That is a destiny for doom. You're destined to be doomed with someone like that. But on the other hand, and I think they're right about this, you have Kenzie, who really wants to work with Tiffany and not as much Q, which is going to kill Q because Tiffany could bail when she starts to feel out what's happening. She could go with Kenzie and burn Q. But Kenzie is a liability in a merge. And so I understand what they're saying because if they go with Kenzie and they get to the merge, Kenzie will peace out the second she realizes that the numbers are not with her people, and she will just whittle her way into the biggest. She's just very skilled. She's socially skilled. She can whittle her way into the biggest group, come in like an underdog and just be like, look, I'm willing to help. I'm a number for you. Bail totally on Q and Tiffany. And then I think once she gets into a group of people, she's going to be very likable and has a chance to move forward. So I know they had to get Jess out on this latest episode. I know they had to. She is so bad at the challenges. She doesn't seem to want it. Every time they showed her trying to talk strategy tonight, it was miserable to watch. It wasn't for her. So you had to move forward with that plan to get her out. But my gosh, it comes at such a high cost because now Tiffany and Q are in a bad spot. If you're Kenzie, all you need to do is get to the merge. It does not matter who you get there with. You can try to cut Banu or Q and get to the merge. Use your sweet talk to get Tiffany with you, and you're good to go. So Kenzie's in an okay spot right now. As long as she can make it to the merge, she's just got to get there. Q and Tiffany are going to have a tough battle. Tiffany made it very clear she's emotional tonight. Like she had mentioned in the episode, all the other tribes saw it. Their options will be limited when they get into the merge. They're going to have to merge with the bottom of the barrel people and hope to win some individual immunities and work around that, find some hidden immunity idols. They're going to have to grind to win this thing. I'm excited, man. This season is good. It is set up very nicely. I'm very excited about it. I'm going to give Best Player of the Night award. I'm going to give it to Maria. I think she's the most solid player right now, and I she got the immunity, or she got the advantage last week, and then this week making the deal, having as much as she pushed the Girls Alliance and wanted the Girls Alliance, having that knowledge that I need to make sure that my main option is outside of this Girls Alliance that could probably blow up at any moment, and making that relationship with Charlie that she now has that gives her a way to infiltrate multiple groups. I thought it was brilliant by Maria. She is driving right now her own game. I think Charlie's great, but I just think Maria has that upper hand, not only because she has the advantage. I do think she is. She seems a little bit smarter. So maybe it's just a little older and wiser. So I think she had the best game. Worst game was Banu tonight. The tribal council emotions were awful. You cannot do that. You cannot just spew out everything you've heard at camp. And no one trusts him now. No one's going to tell him any information. No one can ever rely on him with a secret. They are going to just give him the full playbook, lay out the full playbook at camp coming up. And if they suddenly catch fire winning challenges and don't lose any more challenges to the merge, they've got a few days to really try to just get Banu to shut the heck up moving forward. I just can't see them winning. I think they're doomed. They've got the curse of the losses, and they're going to wear them for a while. I'm trying to think who else might have had a rough game today. Outside that, I don't think anyone made a bad move. I thought Randon did a good job teaming up with Venus, realizing he's in the bottom of the barrel on his tribe. I thought that was really smart of him. I think it was smart of him to trust Venus with the information, because being at the bottom of the yellow tribe, you've got to try to build a solid alliance. And if she burns you with the knowledge, if she burns you by sharing, I think you had to do it to try to make a move right now. I think he had to give up that power of secrecy so that he could try to make a bond. That's just how to get trust. That's the currency trade. I love tonight's episode. I think the season's going to be awesome. You're 2 episodes behind. If you haven't watched them, catch up. It's a great season. All right, I got to go. I got to go kill a bunch of things with Jeremy. Have a great night.